Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sold with Updike Pugh. I'm Weston Pugh.
And I'm Jeff Updike. And in episode 350 today, we are back in zip code 75214. We're looking at a really cool house at 5911 Reiger. This is in the Junius Heights Historic District. This is a 4-bedroom, 3.5 bath house, 2,700 square foot, has a beautiful pool, and has a guest apartment over the garage, and it's offered at $950,000.
So in Market Watch, the June numbers are in for 75214, and it looks like listings have pulled back pretty hard. Closings have stayed steady, and we're going to explain to you what that actually means. We're also going to hit 3 spots that locals love in this area. And in Home Ownership 101, we're going to talk about buying in a historic neighborhood, what the designation actually means, and what it requires of you as a homeowner, and the one important phone call that you need to make for making an offer.
So the June data is here. Let's get into the numbers.
So 75214 is a wonderful neighborhood and zip code. It has a lot of diversity in here, and it actually expands from Lakewood through Junius Heights, White Rock Lake, and also in Lois, Greenville. This actually makes up a really broad spectrum of homes. You've got estates, you've got new duplexes, and you've got California bungalows. The buyers that are choosing this area are actually choosing character as much as they are square footage.
So new listings fell by 23%. That were 70 new listings this month compared to 93 last month. And then closed sales barely moved. There were 43 in the month of June of 2026. That was down just about 4.5%. But the sellers pulled back more than the buyers did. And that tightens where the median price really moves around in the market.
So let's talk about the median. The median came in at $882,000, down from $1,010,000 a year ago. 75214, like I said earlier, has everything from Junius Heights bungalows to the estates of Lakewood. So when the median swings hard is based on the closings. In 2026 alone, this ran from $882,000 in June to a high of $1.16 in March. So this is really a huge mix. It's really not a direction that the market is headed.
So sellers are getting about 96.8% of their list price, and that's essentially flat from last year, which was 96.6%. Supply is down, pricing power is holding, and that's really the story in 75214.
It's a lot of great information. And we're going to do a new thing. We're actually going to this week have a mortgage minute with Jeremy Radcliffe from SWBC and find out what's actually taking place in that arena.
Hey, Jeremy, welcome to Sold with Updike Pugh. You have done such a great job with us being in studio, but we wanted to bring you in just for a few minutes today to kind of give us a little mortgage minute update. What's going on in the mortgage industry?
Well, thanks, Jeff and Weston, for having me on. It's always a treat and a joy to get to chat with you guys. Short story. The simplest way to describe the mortgage market right now is that rates are still elevated, but the market's becoming a little bit more workable for clients. I think particularly because we're starting to see an increase in inventory, which is giving some options for buyers. Rates actually, though, I mentioned rates are elevated. We've actually saw a jump. Rates in the last couple of weeks have jumped up the most that they have been in the last year, since August of 2025. So you're looking at the mid to high sixes. That's obviously not the case for every buyer, but that's the national average. The other, and I mentioned too, the other factor that comes into play when you start adding in inventory, it just gives buyers more options, gives them a little bit, perhaps more leverage in terms of what they're looking at, properties to buy, give them some flexibility in terms of things they can ask for. That's what I've been seeing, at least in terms of on the mortgage side. So it's hopeful. I'm encouraged. What we love to see is rates continue to slide back down. But I think with everything that's going on around the world, that's been the big storyline around rates.
What about adjustable rate mortgages? Are those making sense?
I get these questions about ARMs all the time, and the truth is, ARMs are not bad, but we're just not seeing the discount that you would normally expect on an ARM rate. So the way the ARM works is you've got a discounted rate versus like a standard 30-year or 15-year fix. The benefit for an ARM is you've got that lower rate for the first few years while it's fixed, but we're just not seeing and I think the big reason behind that is we're not seeing the liquidity on the demand for ARM rates. So when you compare that to like a 30-year fixed or a long-term fixed rate, that market is not as liquid, and therefore we're not getting that break in pricing that you would expect. And that is something that we keep an eye out for, because I'm always looking at opportunities for, is there a way to make something a little bit more affordable for buyers? Is there a way to be more attractive on a monthly payment? And if you get a rate, my opinion is if you can get a rate that's a half a point better than a standard 30-year fix, I think at that point it makes sense, but we just have not been seeing it that way.
One of our big challenges is there's just there's this kind of lag in inventory out there. And I think a lot of people are still kind of stuck in one house, and that more of them are ready to give up that 3%, 3.5% mortgage to move on with their life. But a lot of them just don't want to do nobody wants to take a contingency contract. So is there any products out there that can help those people?
Yeah, one of the things, it's not a new product, but we're seeing more of a demand for that exact situation you mentioned, where you've got buyers who have quite a bit of equity in their existing home. They've got great rates. They're sitting maybe in the 3s or 4s on their original mortgage that they purchased a few years ago. But now, just by nature of life, it's time for them to move on, or they're wanting to do something, but they're trying to figure out, how are we going to manage this? We've got a lot of equity and wealth in one home. We want to buy another home, but it's hard for us to move that equity quickly over. Or is there a way to do that? And there's been a resurgence, or kind of an increase in a product. It's basically a buy before you sell. And the way that product works is it gives you the opportunity to, well, there's two things when you're buying and selling. One is can you qualify for buying a new home at the same time still qualify carrying your other home? That's a challenge for a lot of people. And then secondly, what about the equity? What if I need the equity in my old home to put down for a down payment? So these programs help buyers do both. In some cases, it may just be a matter of, I need to be able to show that I can qualify and ignore my departing residence. That's one where we are able to do that. And then there's another product that you can layer on top of that, where it says, okay, not only do I need to be able to qualify for both property, or qualify for the new purchase and then ignore my departing residence, I also need to dip into some of that equity and use that for the down payment. And both of those options are available. Obviously, that's more on there's some nuances, and that's something you'd want to talk to a loan officer about, but that is something we've definitely seen. And I'm hopeful for these. There's so many different providers of these products these days. It's becoming definitely a demand, especially with everybody that has a lot of equity in those homes.
Well, Jeremy, thank you so much. We really appreciate you joining us today, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me on. It's always great to get to be with y'all. Thank you.
So before we walk the house, let's talk about 3 things that people love in this area and why they're actively looking to move here.
So a buyer on Reiger Avenue is not buying the 1918 Craftsman. They are buying everything that goes along with it. They are buying White Rock Lake. They are buying the entire Junius Heights neighborhood. One
of the things that's over there that everyone really likes, but not everybody knows about, is called Far Out. And this is actually situated in Fair Park. And this is a Quonset building that has been converted into a bar and restaurant. The theme, think West Texas, think Marfa. The patio is amazing. And the chef here, Misty Norris, has done an excellent job of putting this menu together. If this isn't on your list, it definitely needs to be.
And the Santa Fe Trail runs right through this section of downtown. Santa Fe Trail begins in Deep Ellum near downtown, comes all the way across the lower part of the city, right up to the bottom of White Rock Lake there. You can cut right across the park, across the street from Reiger, and get right onto the trailhead. Get over there, go out and walk, go out and ride, go out and enjoy Sunday brunch and avoid the DWI.
Okay, that's one way to talk about that. So one of the things also that we're going to hit up is Cosmos. Cosmos is a really cool, funky local spot in East Dallas off of Skillman's. It's a bar and it's a lounge. It is a retro bar that is 80s themed. And I say this because they have a library of VHS tapes that you can select. They'll play the movie, and there they are on the TVs behind the bar. One of the great things, too, is that it also has a fireplace, so it makes it wonderful to go and enjoy in the evenings and the winters. And if you love Vietnamese food, you'll be surprised at how good this food is that comes out of the kitchen.
You know, it's a really great neighborhood, lots of great stuff around it, but let's walk the house.
All right. So we're going to talk now about the main home, and this is 5911 Reiger. This sits in Junius Heights, and as Jeff said, it's a 4-bedroom, 3.5 bath, 1-car garage. pool and AUD complete. And when we talk about California bungalows, it couldn't be more quintessential California bungalows than this, with the wooden front porch that expands large enough to have not one, but two seating areas, including Adirondack chairs and a swing.
And they've really retained a lot of the old charm of this house. They've got these pocket doors that I can't guarantee are original, but I'm sure that they're probably quite old. They installed this wine cellar right underneath the staircase, which I thought was a fantastic ad.
And I think it's a great way that this house flows, because we go from the dining room into this first seating area, and you've got matching bookcases on either side with wallpaper behind. Lots of detail has been thought out when using the materials and the color selects that you see here. As you can see, this living room is situated perfectly between the dining room and this amazing kitchen.
And the kitchen's huge. I mean, this is really made for entertaining. And I have to say, that is sometimes when you get into this 1918 era of home, you do end up with some really small kind of cut-off rooms. They've done an amazing job opening this kitchen up, giving it the open feel that so many people are looking for, but it flows so easily into the living room.
And downstairs has not one, but two seating areas, and this is a flexible space. So if this was something that you wanted to use more for a different use, completely, and it also has a fireplace.
And this is the master bedroom on the first floor. Wood floors, has access out to the back pool. You have a small office area there at the back. That opens up into the closet, and that creates a nice little dressing area there.
I think it's really smart. I think the whole house has been well thought out and arranged. You can see they've completely renovated this master bathroom as well, with a walk-in shower. I love the fact that our tile and the countertops or the cabinets there are matching. You've got the floating. Ooh, right quick. This is coming up the stairs. This is one of my favorite things, because they did wallpaper, light fixture, and an acrylic handrail. I think this is a really good design touch nod, and really opens you up into this yet third living area.
Yeah, this is kind of the landing area on the second floor, and then flanked on the staircase coming up, you've got two other rooms that could both be bedrooms. This one they use really is more of a fourth living area. It's kind of the den, library, but they also use it as their exercise area, which seems to make a lot of sense.
I thought it was a great 1-2 combination of this, but one of the best things about this little room is that directly off of it, they've got this screened-in porch. This is actually above the porte-cochere, and so you get almost a 360 view of Dallas, and this is a really good example of the skyline that you get without having to endure Texas skeeters.
So this is your second floor primary bedroom. That's a king-size bed. That shows you how big this room really is, and a great light into it, got a lot of warmth. This is the office on that second floor that again, it's more and more usable space.
So we've talked about how amazing inside is. Let's get outside. This is a great pool. And as you can see, we've got a detached garage that also has a covered patio. And one of the things that we loved about this covered patio is that it actually has two sliders that open into the garage. So for me, I'm thinking, wow, this could actually turn into, with a little AC, this could turn into an entire cabana space. Yeah. And then we head upstairs, and we've got almost a 400 square foot ADU.
And it's great. Kitchenette, separate bathroom. Again, that's a king-size bed, so that shows you how big that room really is. Here's your kitchenette area. You do have running water there, microwave, small refrigerator, everything you'd need if you have guests that come to stay.
So this is going to be 5911 Reiger Avenue. It's a 4-bedroom, 3.5 bath, 1-car garage, priced at $950,000. That comes in at $350 a square foot. And this is an amazing home.
And we'd like to say thank you so much to Adam Murphy for letting us talk about his home this week. Adam, that's an amazing house. Thank you.
So in Homeownership 101, we're going to talk about historic districts. And as we talked about earlier, 5911 Reiger sits inside of Junius Heights. And this is the largest historic district in Dallas. This designation changes what a buyer can and can't do to a home long after it's closed.
And Dallas has more than 20 historically designated districts, and each of these is administered by the city's Landmark Commission. These are a real designation, and it's got an ordinance behind it. So it is really, it's not just a neighborhood slang name.
No. So historic districts also have requirements. And so any changes to the exterior, whether it's the fence, whether it's a roof or the windows, you're going to need to have a certificate of appropriateness from the city prior to any work starting. Historic districts also have to be listed on the National Registration of Historic Places. This isn't optional, it is a required code. So don't confuse an actual conservation district with a historic district. It's a little different. It has a separate zoning overlay, and it's not an actual landmark designation. Dallas has roughly 15 of these conservation districts. Swiss Avenue was the first one that started in 1973. Others that you probably are familiar with would be like Kessler Park, the M Streets, Bishop Arts and 8th, and then Kings Highway. Conservation districts started in 1988 as a lighter touch, but that still has some control of the neighborhood.
Historic district review can cover paint, window style, not just necessarily the room additions. Most conservation districts don't really get into the paint and the window type part of it. They really focus on like the scale of the home, setbacks, roof pitch, that type of thing, so that it really kind of governs the style of the neighborhood as opposed to really retaining the neighborhood itself.
So historic neighborhoods also have some really amazing benefits. So the ordinance that actually limits you and stops you from changing the color and maybe the fence are also those exact same ordinances to stop your neighbor from tearing down the house, creating a McMansion only 4 times larger than what was currently there, and changing the entire look of the neighborhood. One of the other things too is that historic neighborhoods typically come with neighbors who actually care about that. They're more interested in the look of the home than they are actually the size of the home. And so what you get is you get a community. So Junius Heights they have block parties and they have home tours. This is really a place where birds of a feather flock together.
A historic district really is a trade-off. You give up some control of your windows, your exterior, your paint color, but in return you get a street that can't be bulldozed and people building things underneath you that just don't go along with the neighborhood. A conservation district is really the lighter version, but with that same trade-off.
So 5911 Reiger is a really good example of what that trade buys you. A 1918 Craftsman with a porch and a porte-cochere on a street that has protection. Looking for a home in a historic district? Give us a call. We will be there to help you and guide you through and tell you what the do's and the don'ts are for that historic district and address.
So that's it for this week. We have talked about the numbers in 75214. We have looked at 5911 Reiger. We've talked about 3 things locals love in East Dallas. And in Homeownership 101, we've kind of walked through what a historic district is.
So I know there's a lot of information. And so what we like to do is make it easier. The links we'll have in the comments, we'll have all the links to everything that we discussed. You can click on it and enjoy and share with your friends and family.
So we'll see you next week. Thank you so much for joining us today. Be sure to share, like, and subscribe.
And just remember, we want to be realtors for life.